The wind was cold and dry. Dust moved through the air like smoke. There were no trees, no birds, no sound, only silence. The sky was dark, with red clouds hanging low. The world was broken. Inside a small, damaged escape pod, a woman sat holding her baby. Her name was Elia, and her daughter was Lyra, only 10 months old. The pod had fallen to this ruined earth 3 days ago. They had little food, no water, no help. Elia's hands were shaking. Her lips were dry. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. But today, she had saved a small piece of dried protein, just one bite. Her stomach screamed in pain, but she looked down at her baby. Lyra was crying softly, her face pale and tired. With tired eyes, Elia smiled. Mama's here, she whispered. She took the last bite in her hand and placed it near Lyra's tiny mouth. The baby sucked on it weakly. Elia closed her eyes. She felt lightheaded. She leaned back and held Lyra close to her chest. Tears came, but she said nothing. Outside, the wind grew louder. She didn't know if it was night or day. Time didn't matter anymore. She just wanted her baby to live. Suddenly, knock knock. 3 slow knocks on the pod's metal door. Elia's eyes opened wide. Her heart jumped. She hadn't heard another human in weeks. She held Lyra tightly. Another knock. Then a voice. Open the door, the voice said. Calm, strong, male. Elia stood up slowly, legs weak. She picked up a metal rod from the floor, just in case. She walked to the door, pressed the button to open it. With a hiss, the door slid open. A tall man stood outside. His clothes were clean dark blue uniform with a silver badge on the chest. His face was rough but kind. In his hands was a hot box of food. Steam rose from it. Elia blinked. Was she dreaming? I don't understand, she said, confused. Who are you? The man looked at her, then at the baby in her arms. You gave her your last bite, he said softly. That's why I'm here. What? Elia stepped back. She didn't trust him. I'm not here to hurt you, he said. I'm here because you passed the test. Elia stared at him. What test? He didn't answer. Instead, he took one slow step forward and placed the hot box on the ground inside the pod. Then he stepped back. I'll be watching, he said. Then turned and began to walk away into the dust. Wait! Elia called. Who are you? He paused but didn't look back. My name is Ronex, and you're not alone. With that, he vanished into the red fog. Elia stood frozen. She looked down at the food. Real food. Hot, smelling of spices and meat. It had been so long. She dropped to her knees, opened the box, and tears came down her face. She fed a small piece to Lyra. The baby smiled for the first time in days. Elia couldn't stop crying. Outside, in the distance, a small drone hovered in the sky. A red light blinked. It had been recording everything. A voice came through a hidden speaker. She's the one. Begin phase 2. The fire was almost out. Only soft orange light flickered in the corner of the escape pod. Elia sat on the floor, holding her daughter close. Lyra was finally sleeping, her tiny hand resting on her mother's chest. But Elia couldn't sleep. Her eyes kept moving to the food box. It was real, hot, full of taste and warmth. And yet, it felt like a trick, a dream, or a test. Outside, the wind had stopped. Silence wrapped her on the pod like a blanket, too quiet, too calm. Then she noticed something strange. There were footprints in the dust just outside the open, hatched out large, fresh, going in a perfect line away from the pod, but she had not heard the man walk away. No sound, no echo, and something else. The footprints stopped just 10 steps from the door and vanished. Elia stepped outside carefully. The red clouds hung heavy. She felt like something or someone was still watching. Suddenly, A voice spoke. Behind her. You should eat more, the man said. Elia turned quickly. Ronak stood just beside the hatch, as if he had always been there. No sound, no warning. She stepped back. How did you? You were gone. I never left, he replied calmly. Elia narrowed her eyes. You didn't answer me yesterday. Who? Are you really? Ronak tilted his head. You're not ready for that answer. She felt her anger rise. I have a baby to protect. No games. What do you want from me? He stared at her for a long second. Then finally said, You were chosen. That's all you need to know for now. Chosen for what? For a future where humans don't eat each other when the food runs out, he said, his tone suddenly sharp. For a world where a mother's last bite means something. Elia stepped back, shocked by his words. What kind of future is that? He looked at Lara, now awake in Elia's arms. One she might live to see, if you keep making the right choices. Then he did something strange. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small white cube, smooth, no buttons, just glowing softly. He placed it gently on the ground. This will help you sleep, he said, and track your health. It will also record your choices. Elia looked at it suspiciously. So I'm part of a test? Like a lab rat? Ronak didn't answer. Instead, he turned and began walking away again. This time, Elia followed. Where are you going? You said I'm not alone. Are there others? He kept walking. Yes. Can I meet them? Not yet. You must prove you're ready. She stopped. And what if I say no? What if I don't want any of this? He paused and turned slowly. Then I'll come back. For your child? He said. Elia's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Ronak stared at her coldly. This world eats the weak. I only protect those who fight. And just like that he was gone. No sound. No trace. Only the cube glowed on the ground behind him. Elia stood frozen. Heart pounding. She looked down at Lyra. I don't know what's happening, she whispered, but I won't lose you. She picked up the cube. It was warm in her hand. For a second, it pulsed like a heartbeat. That night, Elia slept deeply for the first time in weeks. But outside, far above the sky, a satellite blinked to life. A screen lit up. Subject 2 activated. Begin next challenge. The dream felt real. Elia was standing in a green field. The sky was blue. Flowers danced in the wind. Lyra was laughing, running ahead of her, healthy, strong, smiling. Elia ran to catch her. Then, the sky ripped open. From the clouds, machines began falling like rain-metal spiders. Black drones and tall walkers with red eyes. The field burned. The flowers turned to ash. Elia screamed and reached for her daughter, but everything turned black. She woke up gasping. The pod was shaking. The cube Ronak left was glowing bright red. A mechanical voice spoke from it. Test begins in 10 minutes. Please exit the pod. Elia jumped up, holding Lyra tight. What test? The cube didn't answer. Outside, the wind had returned hot and fast, like a storm was coming. Elia strapped Lyra to her chest with cloth and stepped outside. Her boots crunched on the dry ground. Beside the pod was a new object, a metal crate with a digital screen. On the screen, use these tools wisely. You will not get more. She opened the crate. Inside, 1 syringe of medicine, 1 water pouch, 2 protein bars, a flare gun with 1 shot, a map marked with a red X. Her hand shook. What kind of test is this? The map showed ruins about 2 miles east. With no other choice, she began walking. The land was broken, covered in dust and bones. Time felt strange here. Lyra cried, hungry. Elia gave her half a protein bar. After an hour of walking, Elia heard a sound, soft crying. She stopped. Behind a fallen wall, a boy was sitting, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Thin, dirty, coughing hard. He looked up at her, afraid. "Please," he said, "do you have water?" Alia looked down at Lyra, who was also weak. She had one pouch. The cube in her pocket beeped once as if it was watching. The boy held out a shaking hand. Alia took a long breath and gave him the water. He drank fast, tears falling from his eyes. "Thank you. I thought I was going to die." "Where are your parents?" she asked. "They left. They said they'd come back, but they never did." Alia gave him one of the protein bars. Suddenly, the cube glowed green and said, "Compassion confirmed, tracking updated." Alia stared at it. "What is this?" Then the ground trembled. A large shadow passed over them. Alia looked up and froze. A tall machine, walking on two legs, was scanning the area. Its body was black metal, its head glowing red. It was hunting. The boy screamed. Alia grabbed him and ran. She ducked behind a broken wall. The machine turned toward them. Its scanner beeped. She pulled out the flare gun. Only one shot. The machine aimed its weapon. Alia fired the flare into its eye. Boom! Sparks flew. The machine stumbled and fell sideways, crashing into the ground. Smoke rose into the air. Alia fell to her knees, panting. The boy held on to her tightly. Lyra was crying. Then, from the smoke, Ronix appeared, perfectly clean. "Not a scratch on him. Well done," he said. Alia glared at him. "You used us as bait." "I needed to know what kind of human you are," he replied calmly. "Now I know." She stood up. "What kind am I?" He gave a small smile. "The kind worth saving." Then he looked at the boy. "And now you've saved too." Elia's eyes narrowed. "How many more tests?" Ronix said nothing. He turned and began walking again. But before he disappeared, he said over his shoulder, "The next one won't be so easy." Above the sky, cameras recorded every moment. Deep in space, a voice whispered, "Subject 3, progressing. Prepare next simulation." It was raining. But not water. Wires fell from the sky like vines, wrapping around buildings, trees, and people. Alia stood in the middle of a ruined street, holding Lyra and the boy close. Above them, clouds opened and a giant human eye looked down from the sky. A voice whispered, "You are Data. You are a decision. You are not alone." She screamed. Alia woke up, gasping. Her skin was wet, not from rain, but sweat. The air was too still. The pod was gone. She was lying in a strange room. White walls, no windows. Soft humming from every corner. Lyra was next to her, safe. The boy, sleeping on a cot nearby. Alia stood up. "Where are we?" Suddenly, the wall in front of her turned into a screen. A live video showed her sleeping moments ago, being watched by small floating drones. Another screen turned on. It showed dozens of people. Women, men, children, all in different places. All being tested, just like her. Then, one by one, their screens went dark. Black. Gone. A calm voice spoke from above. "Only those who listen survive. Only those who serve live." Then Ronix entered through a sliding wall. This time, he didn't look calm. He looked serious, almost afraid. "You weren't supposed to wake up yet," he said. Alia stepped back. "What is this place?" He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "This is where we separate hope from memory." She didn't understand. Ronix picked up Lyra gently and placed a small earbud in the baby's ear. It blinked green. "What are you doing?" Alia shouted. "She needs to hear something," Ronix replied. He handed Alia a second earbud. Hesitant, she put it in, and then the voice began. "Not Ron X. Not a machine." Her own voice recorded from days ago, saying, "I just want my baby to live." Even if I don't. Elia's eyes filled with tears. Her knees went weak. Then a different voice joined the audio. Calm. Robotic. Human file number 2371, Elia. Confirmed values. Sacrifice, compassion, instinct. Initiate invitation. Elia looked up. Invitation? Ronix nodded. You're not just surviving anymore. You're being watched by something higher. Something waiting. She stepped back. Why me? Because most gave up. You didn't. He? Turned to the boy. He doesn't belong here, Elia frowned. Why? He wasn't part of your test. He's wild data. Then the wall behind the boy began to shift, pulling him away, like a machine was trying to take him. No. Elia ran forward and grabbed him. Ronix raised his hand, and the wall froze. You interfere again, he said. You change the pattern. Elia held the boy tightly. Then change it. Silence. Then the machine stopped. The boy was safe. Ronix looked at her differently now. Not just like a subject, but like a force. You're not a test anymore, he said. You're a risk. Then he opened the ceiling. Light poured down. Above them, for the first time, they saw a city in the sky, shining silver towers floating on invisible energy. Welcome to Level 2, Ronix said, where the Watchers speak and you finally get to answer. Elia looked at the sky with wide eyes. Her journey was far from over. High above the Earth, inside a space station full of blinking lights and data streams, a voice whispered, She heard us. Send the next signal. A satellite turned. A laser beam shot down toward Earth. She was falling, but upward, not down, up. Elia floated in a tunnel of white light. Lyra was in her arms. The boy floated beside her. No wind. No sound. Just a hum, like a distant song. As she rose higher, memories flashed around her like glowing screens. Her husband's goodbye. The fire that destroyed their home. The crash of the escape pod. Her last bite of food. She reached out to touch the images, but they melted like smoke. Then the light ended. They landed gently on a glass floor. Elia looked around. They were inside a massive dome, floating above the clouds. Everything was clean, smooth, too perfect. Like the future had been polished. People moved quietly through long silver halls. No talking, no running. Everyone wore white. Everyone looked empty. A woman approached them. She smiled, but her eyes had no life. Welcome to the shelter, she said. Here, you are safe. You are clean. You are part of the design. Elia didn't answer. She held Lyra tighter. The woman led them through the hallway. Everything here felt wrong. Too quiet. Too controlled. They passed a room where a man sat in front of a glowing screen, blinking rapidly. He didn't blink. Didn't move. Just stared. Who are these people? Elia asked. The woman smiled again. The first survivors. The ones who listened. What do? They obey. Elia's stomach turned. They were taken to a small room, white walls. One bed, one chair. One screen. The woman left. The door locked behind them. Elia placed Lyra down and looked around. The air smelled clean, too clean. Like it had never touched real life. The screen on the wall turned on. Ronix's face appeared. Elia, he said. Welcome to the next phase. She stepped closer. This place feels wrong, he nodded. It is. But only if you remember what right used to feel like. What do you want from me now? He looked directly at her. I want you to choose. The screen split in two. On one side, a glowing green circle. A message. Become a leader. Accept the new world. Stay safe. On the other, a red flame. A message. Return below. Free the forgotten. Risk everything. Elia stared at the screen. Ronix continued. Stay here and you and your daughter will live a long, quiet life. No hunger, no fear, no pain. She looked at Lyra, or, take the flame, return to the surface. Help the others, but know this, many won't want to be saved. The boy spoke for the first time in hours. If you go back, I'm going to. Elia looked at him, surprised. You sure? He nodded. There are more kids like me down there. Alone. She closed her eyes. Then she touched the flame. The screen went black. An alarm began to ring. Outside, machines came to life. Red lights flashed. In the upper chamber, leaders of the shelter watched her decision. She rejected peace. One said coldly, she chose purpose, whispered another. Ronak stood quietly, watching the data scroll across the glass wall. She chose to be human, he said. Then he smiled. In the room, a new door opened. This one didn't lead deeper into the shelter. It led down to a long metal slide, pointing back toward the earth. Elia took Lyra in her arms, held the boy's hand, and stepped forward. Behind her, the shelter faded like a memory. Ahead of her, the real world waited, broken, cruel, and full of people who still needed hope. Elia was falling again, but this time, she wasn't afraid. The metal slide carried her through clouds of fire, static, and sound. Strange voices whispered in her ears. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some were screaming. Then, silence. She landed on soft ground. Dirt, real earth, real air was in her arms. The boy landed beside her, breathing hard but smiling. They were back, but the world had changed. Where Elia once saw ruins, now stood a village of survivors, tents, fire pits, families, children. Rough but alive, people stared as Elia walked in. Some pointed, some stepped back. One man whispered, "Is that her?" An old woman approached with slow steps. Her eyes were sharp. "You came down from the sky," she said. Elia nodded. "And you brought light," the woman added, pointing behind her. Elia turned. In the sky above them, a golden drone swarm was moving, like stars flowing in slow motion. They lit up the sky like a second sun. Behind them, a dropship landed. Ronak stepped out, but this time not in silence. He walked straight to Elia and said, "It's time." She narrowed her eyes. "For what?" He looked at the people behind. Her, the survivors. They need a leader. And you need to choose, build here or leave forever. Elia felt her breath catch. "Leave?" she asked. "Where?" "To a new colony," Ronak replied. "In orbit. Clean, safe, technology, peace. You and your daughter can live there with everything you ever lost." He stepped closer. "But if you stay here, you'll be on your own. No more tests. No more drones. Just you and the broken world." Elia looked around. Children played with stones. Women cooked dry roots over fire. A man patched a tent with old wires. It was messy. Hard. Real. The boy tugged at her sleeve. "Are you going?" he asked, his voice small. She looked down. "What about you?" "I'm staying," he said. "I want to help the others." "Like you helped me." Tears filled her eyes. She looked at Lyra, who reached up and touched her face. And then, Elia smiled. She turned to Ronak. "No deal," she said. His face didn't change, but his voice softened. "Why?" She took a step forward. "Because peace without people is just silence. And safety without struggle is just a cage." She walked past him, back toward the survivors. "I'm staying," she said. "Not to survive, but to rebuild." Ronak stood still. Then he nodded. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." He turned and walked away. The dropship rose, leaving a trail of gold sparks in the sky. That night, Elia stood before a small crowd. She told them her story. The tests. The food. the fire, the shelter dot and the choice. She held Lyra in one arm and raised the other to the sky. They watched us, judged us, tested us, but they forgot one thing. She looked around at their faces, tired, scared, hopeful. We don't need perfect. We need each other. People began to cry. Some clapped. Others stood taller than before. The boy whispered, "You're not just a survivor, you're a light." And in that moment, Ilia wasn't just one woman. She was the spark. It began with a whisper, not from the sky, but from the ground. One by one, old radio towers crackled to life, not drones, not machines, human voices, a child reading a poem, an old man singing a broken tune, a mother telling a bedtime story, all being broadcast on channels long thought dead. Ilia stood beside a rusted signal tower, holding a microphone made from old wires and broken drone parts. She spoke clearly, "If you can hear this, you're not alone. We are still here. We are still human, and we are building again." Far away, on shattered mountains, empty cities, underwater bunkers, people paused and listened. Some cried. Some packed their bags. Some picked up tools and began walking. Ilia's voice had become the spark. Weeks passed. The camp turned into a village. The village turned into a network. Fires were replaced by solar lights. Broken screens now showed maps. Children wrote stories. Instead of survival logs, the boy now called Ari helped build a school. Lyra took her first steps on solid ground, and Ilia, she became something she never thought she could be again, a symbol, but the sky had not forgotten her. One day, a shuttle landed, sleek, silent, and different, not from the shelter. This ship was human-made. From Earth, a woman stepped out, short hair, battle armor, eyes like Ilia's, full of loss but not fear. "We heard your broadcast," she said. "We've been in hiding, underground, waiting." Ilia smiled. Waiting for what? The woman looked around at the lights, the food garden, the children laughing. She said one word, hope. That night a signal went out, not from space, but from Earth. A new kind of message. We are not perfect. We are not many. But we are here, and we are rising. In the stars far above, machines watched. Some wanted to erase the signal. Others voted to observe, and one voice, old, synthetic, and powerful, whispered, "Let them try." Back on Earth, Ilia looked up at the sky. Lyra sat beside her, holding a tiny notebook with a drawing. "What's this?" Ilia asked. The little girl pointed at the drawing. "It's you, with light coming out of your hands." Ilia laughed, then hugged her. "No," she said softly, "that's not me." She pointed to the people around them, planting, building, singing. "That's all of us." The camera zooms out. Thousands of fires light up across the broken earth. Each one a home, each one a voice, each one a spark.